No.
Okay.
Indeed.
What is today, the date?
It's
Six,
six.
so it's been 2 months, over 2 months since I've, right? No, December, January.
Yeah.
Since I've had this COVID and whatever else this is, I don't know what it is.
Annoying.
Not good.
We're ready when you are.
You all set there, dear?
I am.
Okay. I'll call this Town of Vinalhaven Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Tuesday, February 26, 2024. Roll call, Tom Anthony, Don Young, Leslie Dyer, myself, Elizabeth Bunker, and Marjorie Stratton, and Lad Olson is on Zoom. Number 2, approve agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor? 3 minutes, approve the minutes from the January 23rd, 24 meeting.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? 4, approve and sign treasurer's warrant 32,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor? Communications,
I don't have anything, thanks.
6, speakers from the floor, 6A. PIA General Manager Chris Carroll. Hi, Chris.
Hello, thank you for the invite.
You're welcome, glad to see you.
Thanks.
So you had asked to meet with Chris and, I don't know what questions you had. These are the different items that we had discussed when he came over to meet with us.
Okay.
Well, I think there's a whole lot of questions that, that I have. I had a question with Penobscot Air, and I'm just curious, what your plans are, for the airport, and your kind of some idea what the tariffs might be for flying, as well as, are you doing the mail now and FedEx? All of these things.
Okay, I can just give you a general overview. We are still flying passengers over and back from Vinalhaven. We are obviously doing medevacs, and we are flying the mail whenever there's an issue with the Vinalhaven ferry. We'll fly it out there in the morning and then fly it back in the afternoon. Yeah, so I hope I answered most of all your questions briefly on that. What were other specific ones you had?
Well, I was curious, how the rates work, because for a while it got me prohibitive to fly Penobscot Air as a passenger.
Yeah.
Now, I understand from reading some of your
That's it.
press releases that you were going to address this, and I was just curious, where that stands and where you see it.
Yes, so I came on in January 2nd. Sean Creeley's the new owner. They did the ownership change sometime in November. At that point, he lowered the prices substantially, actually over halfway. So now,
Wow.
like a 2-person trip over to Vinyl's $70 a person. So I mean, it's substantial compared to where we had it before. But to be straight up honest about it, it's a trial run to see if we can make it with these prices. We tried to see, basically what could get people back in seats and still cover our bills, and that's pretty much where we're at right now. The more people that we can fit in an airplane safely, seats occupied, is the more money we make, per trip. So when we're only hauling one person back and forth, we really don't make any money with that. We hope to get more people on board. So it's been effective. We've done really well so far with December and January. looking at employments, it's actually gone up, where historically it's gone down in the winter for the past 3 years. So we're pretty excited to see people using our airline again.
Are you advertising the rates? Because I think a lot of people like me had no idea.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're on Facebook right now doing that primarily, but we're going to have pilots go out and try to, maybe hang a rate sheet up at town hall or just anywhere we can go to a store and hang things up. Kind of finding an all-inclusive advertisement is very difficult in this part of Maine. So if you all have any ideas of where to advertise where it reaches everybody, I'm all ears.
We certainly want you to be successful and be able to fly emergencies as well as passengers. So I think the board will do what it can to work with you.
Appreciate
We
that.
might try the wind.
Wind, yeah.
What is it?
The island newspaper, The Wind.
Are you saying like WIND, the wind?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
It's a little weekly newspaper.
Very good. No, that's great advice.
So no problem flying nights?
So yeah, we're not doing nights at this point. Yeah, and no night medevacs, no anything like that. And quite frankly, we don't have the staffing for the pilots. As you know, probably you've heard that everybody is the airlines have just scooped up pilots left and right. Yeah, we're having difficulty finding pilots, qualified pilots. This isn't, where we can pick up just any pilot. We have to train them, and we oftentimes are in the middle of training them and realize they're not going to work out just because of how difficult our flying is, and kick them to the curb. So it's just challenging what we have to do with that. Yeah, what other questions do you have? And then I can ask some questions of you all as well, if you don't mind.
One of the things here is snow plowing. What is that about?
I was just trying to give an overview of what we discussed at our meeting when Chris came over. He actually complimented, Nick Barton for the, good job that he does plowing over there. He did ask to make a few adjustments on where we push the snow when we haven't had much snow this year, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, so Chris was very complimentary to Nick, that Nick is very, quick to get the airport plowing done, and so it's ready for people to fly in and out.
Good.
So
Yeah,
that was
and
just one of the things.
yeah, he left a message on our answer machine at like 10:40 at night, the night before, so that when we had it first thing in the morning for an early flight. And I just think that was above and beyond what he had to do. And we just really appreciate that communication that he has with us.
Oh, good. That's good to know. And then tree cutting.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, the trees, and I'm coming at this from a unique perspective. Even though I'm general manager, I was a pilot there, assistant chief pilot, before I took this position over. So I've flown myself into Vinalhaven several times, done, several medevacs out of there. The trees are just getting a little too tall for safety on both ends of the runway. And I kind of showed the fire chief where I was specifically talking about. It's making it difficult for us to even carry like these heavier medevacs out, especially if we're taking off uphill. We've done everything we can to mitigate the risk to the medevacs, so much so that we have, we're not letting 207s go in there, which is our bigger plane. We're not having them go in there to do medevacs anymore. It eats up too much of that runway, and it's just too risky. I don't know if you all,
Tall trees.
because of the tall trees and just how short that runway is,
Right.
and obviously the best case scenario at the top of that hill would be put in a little runway extension. That would help out a lot if the trees were cut to give us some more room. And we actually are, and I'm allowed to say this, I checked with the owner before I blurted this out on a public forum, but we're getting sued for that medevac crash. that happened a couple years ago. So it's like, I just feel that even as a pilot there, we've done everything we can to mitigate the risk. Now it's more just an environmental issue that we don't have any control over.
Okay. So is that something that we can address, Marjorie? The town?
Well, I was talking to, well, I don't know who owns the property on the other side around the Island Road. That was the first property that I was going to try to address. We did cut down one tree. I don't know if you've noticed that yet, Chris. The one tree on the corner there that you asked us to take down, that was on
Okay,
our
thank you.
property. We
Okay,
took
I haven't
that
been
one
out there.
down. Yeah, I need to find out who owns the property across around the Island Road and see if we can do some cutting on the roadside there. But I haven't done that yet, I'm sorry. And, yeah, we just need to get a hold of these property owners and see if we can do some cutting and how we might go about getting that done. You know, it's most of it's all private property, so
Right.
I can't just go start cutting down trees.
Right.
But I know we've done it in the past with permission, so.
Okay, so that's something that you're working on then to find out the.
Yeah,
property
it's
owners.
on my list. If anybody else would like to take it over.
Your list?
It's on my list.
It's on your list. If anybody wants to take over the tree cutting part of the list.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if we want to be good neighbors in this situation as well, Penobscot On Air does. I mean, it's mutually beneficial to everybody. You know, if you are coming up on roadblocks with these private property owners, I wouldn't mind speaking with them myself, and maybe we're able to offer some type of incentive for them, or something that our company can do to help them
Okay.
out as well. So I don't want to put the burden completely on you all. Because it is going to be mutually beneficial. But I understand. I mean, North Haven has the same issues, so this has been a familiar territory for us for years. So I just appreciate y'all looking into it.
I speak to all the trees at the end of the runway, but I know when you get up high, that when you come up over the bluff, there's those tall ones that are making the turbulence.
Yes.
Up over, a good portion of them is actually on my land, and I know I've talked to you. I fly with you guys a fair amount.
Yeah, I
And
remember I flew with you the other day.
Cut. We can cut away on them. I could care less. Cut every tree if you want.
Wow.
But I don't know. I don't. For all at the end of the runway, not all of it is on mine, so I can't. But the ones that are up on the top of that bluff is, after the swamp and you come up that. But where that gravel pit thing that you fly over, that's all.
Okay, but I'd love to meet with you at some point, and yeah, we'll check that out for sure.
The pilot was going to come over and walk and show me which ones that they wanted.
Okay, very cool.
But yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
be.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, that's great. And also, for being good neighbors, the longer runway we have, the less we have to stand on that prop and make all that noise. The shorter the runway is, we have to, put the coals to it, and really, it's loud. I mean, I know it's loud. I stand there when it goes by me, so it could help with some noise abatement as well if we can find a way to extend it a little bit.
By a little bit, how much do you mean?
Like 200 to 300 feet would be extremely helpful.
And whose property is that?
Multiple owners.
Yeah. Okay.
David Frost is waving his hand.
I know he is. I told him I'd be with him shortly. Dan, I'll be right with you. Okay, move. No, I'm only kidding. All right, Dan, what do you want to say? Nope, can't hear you.
Is that him?
Dan, hold on just a second. Can you just?
Your audio isn't working.
Yeah, you had that problem the last time you tried to
I can't.
chat. I don't know what happened.
You sound like a chipmunk.
It had something to.
Sounds like the Wizard of Oz.
I know,
Munchkin.
flying monkeys and all that stuff. All right, well, I just, are you all set, Dan, or are you
I think he's gonna
trying to
call.
figure it out?
He's gonna call the. Well, while he's working on that, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that I've used the grocery service 2 or 3 times and that's been super convenient. So thanks for
Excellent,
that.
thank
That
you.
was great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and we really did that because we could not afford to have Sundays open in the winter time. And we seriously want to provide medevac service to the islands on Sundays. That really bothered us to not be able, to be available for the island. And it's actually come back to us tenfold. It's actually making money. So it all works out in the end.
That's
So
great.
thank you for that.
And what about the runway lights that's on this list?
They've been repaired. Again,
Okay.
it was just something that we had discussed, and they're not using them because they're not flying at night, but
Right, still good to
Well,
have.
the
them.
option there.
Still,
Good to have
still
them.
need to have them, right?
On the survey, any update on getting the survey done?
well, people keep telling me that there must already be a survey. So the last place I think I can look is upstairs in the drawers. See if there's anything up there, because I don't know of anything, but
Eric was gonna come look as well and see if he could put his hands on it.
Eric,
Davis, yeah.
Okay, is Dan through yet?
He's on the phone.
Oh,
Hold
gotta
on.
unmute him.
Can I unmute him from here?
Can you unmute Dan? Or
Unmute.
Lizzie?
It says ask to unmute. Pin on.
Okay,
There.
okay, there we go. I'm not sure where I lost out. Just as a reminder, the owner of the candy store has about a 30-foot strip at the west uphill end of the runway. Then it becomes Alan Lazzaro's property for about 150 feet. And then it becomes one other landowner, whoever is beyond Allen on Round the Island Road if you were going north. Those 2 lots are shotgun lots that extend all the way back across the runway. And then, Marjorie, I think you asked if there was a survey. I've got Del Webster's old survey of the property.
Oh, good.
I'm not sure that, okay.
So you and I can do that one offline, but my point is, yes, there is the ability to grow westward on the uphill end and not have to worry about crossing around the Island Road, which is almost physically impossible to grow the runway and get that, say, extra 300 feet, go from 1,500 to 1,800. One question that Mr. Carroll didn't address was, what about left and right? Are you guys concerned about any type of wind drift or crosswind? Do we need to continue to peel back the trees left and right of the center line?
Yeah, that was kind of addressed, especially on the I guess it would be the across the road and towards the east end. That was part of the trees that I had mentioned to them. But in the same sense, we understand that happens, and we prepare for it when we go in. As far as the wind is concerned, and we train our pilots in that situation before they ever carry a customer or a box. So the wind is not really that big of a deal for us. It's more of the density altitude in the summer with the heavy load and just avoiding those trees and trying to clear our obstacles.
Marjorie, just a reminder for, again, going uphill, aiming westward on the north side of the runway, you've got the town-owned fire pond and then a line of trees until the property line. Those trees are yours if you want to deal with them.
I didn't
Yes,
think having
sounds good.
survey in hand will help.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Pam, thanks for letting me participate. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody else have anything? Chris, you wanted to ask some questions yourself? Or?
They've actually, pretty much been answered. We had a, medevac, this is actually a statement, not a question, but we did have a medevac the other day that, we couldn't take out of there, due to weight as well. So this is, I understand like the political pressure you all are under as well with private property owners. Like I'm not dismissing that. I just hope we can all work together to find a solution with it. And I just really appreciate you, having inviting me to this and being able to speak and look forward to many years of working well with the Vinalhaven town. So thank you.
Oh, great. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
Thank you so much. And, to get some dialogue going with those property owners will be important. So hopefully that'll all be able to start taking place sooner than later. Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, Chris.
That's it?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Moving on. Speakers from the floor. B, Peter Drury. Peter sent this email to me this morning with his thoughts about, the Maine State Ferry Service. And I'm gonna let you say, you know what you wrote. I'm gonna let you say what you can or want to.
Yes. I've been frustrated with the ferry service for a long time. What seems to me to be, a lack of professionalism and a lack of customer service and just not a willingness to change and modify their behavior. And I guess one of the things that I've come up with is, and I think I mentioned this a while ago, I came in after the commission was at an advisory board meeting in October, is talking to the legislature. And probably before that, I mean, maybe at this point, asking Phil Garrity to attend the meeting, so that the select board of the town could actually talk to him and ask him what their plan is, how they're gonna address, because prior to, in my memory, prior to sort of the last few months, all day canceled trips or canceled trips at the last minute because of staffing were pretty rare, if not, were non-existent. And we've seen 2 events in less than a month, where they just canceled an entire day because they didn't have enough people. And as I said in the letter, I mean, I'm not the only one in town that could fill some of the positions. And the department, they refused to hire me for their own potentially petty reasons, but there are others who could also fill in. And it just seems to me inexcusable that they're not doing it. And I don't like it. I'm not really, when I ask them questions, they don't like it very much. And I don't get much traction, but it seems like if the town actually asked and said, look, what's going on? What's the plan? Do you have something forward thinking about what you're gonna do? And maybe as an opportunity to have a conversation with them about what the plan is for the future. I mean, at the last advisory, I guess it was 2 meetings, I asked something about sea level rise. If the ferry service is thinking about that at all. And just one of the issues. I mean, my trouble with talking about the ferry service is that I see so many different things that we could fix that it's very hard for me to narrow it down. But high tides are a problem already. Nobody really likes having to back onto the Thompson at high tide a couple of times a month. So I mentioned that at the last meeting and Bill Pulver, what's he, COO for the DOT, sort of said, well, we consider sea level rise in all of our projects. But there's no project now at the ferry service that they're doing. I mean, if they're building a bridge someplace, yes, that's a current project, but I got no indication that they're actually thinking about what they're gonna do over the next even 5 years to address the fact that we're gonna have more and more issues at high tides, as things continue to change. There's already problems at North Haven a couple of times a month that I don't think management is acknowledging. We have complications with the Thompson and may well with the Spear, if we actually ever get her on it. But just my thoughts are just rather than trying to do it myself, which has been particularly unrewarding, having towns sort of ask questions of the management of the ferry service, and not bypassing the advisory board, but sort of as the town of Vinalhaven rather than as a member of the collective advisory board. And the advisory board meets every other month, which isn't really enough, it seems to me, to sort of keep the pressure on to get some answers, to get some clarity of what they plan on doing to change things.
Well, I mean, Don, you talked with Holly Eaton the other day, you said, about this issue.
Very responsive.
Do you think that we as a board could send her a letter, or? I mean, what's the next step? What would we do to address the issue to the right people, and who are they?
I would think that Holly might be willing to come over here and we can discuss with her how is the best route for us to take to get influence. She would know better than any of us in this room.
Yeah, she might be willing to come on a Zoom
Either way,
call with us at one of our meetings.
I do think we should have Bill Garrett over here, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either, but the thing is to get people to actually be here in person.
Well, let's make the request.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, we can add.
And I think it may be helpful that Holly Eaton's on the transportation.
She is.
Too, yeah, so I think that would help.
Yeah. I don't know, I just feel that they're unresponsive to anything.
Anybody.
When we had this issue a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and everybody overwhelmed them with emails and telephone calls,
And they changed.
and they changed what?
They,
Oh, they changed the vote. I thought you meant they changed.
no,
what?
changed the vote.
They changed the vote.
But, I was disappointed that there was no response, like I don't know if they responded to other people's emails, but they definitely, there was no response to my email.
No response to my email either.
And not that I'm such a big important person, but when you sign it, the chair of the select board of Vinalhaven, town of Vinalhaven, you might think you might get a response that would say, at least, well, thank you for your email. And there was nothing. It's the second time that I have emailed and gotten no response. So I'm frustrated and angry. I'm upset. And it's, I don't think they understand when they cancel boats, especially the last trip from Rockland to here.
Yeah.
With
What,
an hour notice.
I mean, some
You couldn't
people
even
can't,
come to one-
some people can't afford to
Yeah.
buy a motel room.
Insane.
And what about people if they have babysitters for their kids? Do these people not realize what it does to people's lives?
Yeah.
Or do they
don't,
care?
They don't care, yeah.
Part of it is they don't care, and I am not inclined to be charitable to the ferry service. But to me, the fact that they didn't understand that having the having the Philbrook be the island-based boat didn't make any sense. Shows a complete lack of knowledge or comprehension of what the ferry service, how it works.
And that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, lad.
what Pete had said earlier, large problem with the ferry service is there is no forward thinking. It's just putting out a fire as it presents itself. And there's zero forward thought on, well, how can we prevent this from happening? And now with these crewing issues, they don't have anything there that now Dan is not in the office. He's running the boat. They really don't have anyone with a marine background managing that. And a prime example tonight, they could have run the Libby. They had enough crew to crew the Libby and at least run a trip to the island, so people didn't get stuck. That's a better than a no option. I mean, I got a hotel room because I got stuck over. So like when we do talk about with Holly, whoever we end up going through, that's another issue is that there needs to be some more forward thinking there.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Gabe, you had a question?
I had a comment, if that's okay, and of course, my dog is,
This is a comment.
Biz has a lot of comments about neighborhood watch. So, yeah, just to speak to Peter's point about, what is the ferry service doing around sea level rise? And I think, like, we all know this, obviously, Maine DOT has a gazillion priorities, right? And they put out their 3-year work plan, and it prioritizes all their projects. And, but I think, if the islands collectively, were like, okay, we need to seriously explore the vulnerabilities of our ferry infrastructure. I know that we were able to look at our ferry infrastructure, and I'm not sure if other Penobscot Bay communities did that as well, but there's a link on the town website. I'm going to just drop it in the chat for Lizzie and folks on the Zoom. But so there was a vulnerability assessment done for the Vinalhaven ferry infrastructure showing, like, what could be done now to mitigate the impact of sea level rise, and then what happens when we wait to do that, the cost of doing something now versus the cost of doing nothing and the cost of waiting. I would imagine that other ferry infrastructure might have similar vulnerabilities. I know Islesboro has already assessed their ferry infrastructure. I say there, but MDO, Maine State Ferry Service infrastructure on their island, and others may have as well. But just thinking about, there are some very large DOT federal grants that, collectively, if the islands if they conducted vulnerability assessments for their ferry infrastructure, were able to present the case to DOT, that collectively there should be, some adaptations done to ferry infrastructure across all of the islands. I think that would be, a reasonable and competitive request. I think everyone asking for something for them is less, unless there's a loud enough noise. It just seems like it doesn't rise to the top of priorities because there's so many priorities in the work plan. So I'm just thinking if the town is thinking, how can we address something now? I say now, starting to address something now would mean something happening, hopefully in the not too far, future. But doing that collectively with the other islands and having a clear understanding of the vulnerabilities and costs to mitigate those vulnerabilities. It's just my 2 cents about funding and making something happen.
Okay, good. Thanks for that information. Marjorie, you had a question?
Yeah, I did talk with Bill Gary today. He said that the crew shortage problem was that he had 2 people out with COVID. We talked a little bit about, obviously, I don't disagree that, these crew shortage problems are a major problem for us, and it goes beyond just these crew shortages. And, we've got to try to do something. I don't disagree with that, but I did talk and get some information from Bill today. And he did call back and say that there would be a morning run from Vinalhaven tomorrow. But the other thing, I have a question, and maybe some of the boat people can answer this question. If the Thompson, which is now our island-based boat, if that boat needs 5 people, and that seems to be becoming more of an issue, should we ask for the Philbrook to be on the island? No. Why is that?
Capacity,
For
What's
that
that?
first boat?
the first boat capacity.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
That's why the Libby didn't make sense to be out here.
Peter, a quick
but
question
the
for you.
Philbrook is bigger, but anyway.
The issue of the high tides and the Thompson. I backed on, back up, and it is a pain. Why don't they just turn the boat around in Rockland, come the other way?
I don't actually know, because I haven't ever run that boat and I'm not familiar with it.
Wouldn't it make sense though, to,
Well, what I understand is that on the time, in a situation where you have to back on, because of the timing of the tide and the schedule of the trip, you can't get off the bow on the other side.
you can't, but what I mean though, if you don't,
But apparently that's not. I don't know. You know,
it would seem to make so much sense.
well, and if it would work. I'm not sure there's anybody that would oversee the directing, the directive to do.
Not looking ahead, right, Glenn?
You know, and when there was very little direction out of the office for the entire time I worked there. So some captains might go, yeah, it'll be a lot easier if we do this here now, and then we can do that, and it makes it easier for everybody, and some of them say, well, I'm not gonna follow. So I can't help it.
Just to piggyback off what Gabe was saying, maybe I mean, it certainly makes sense for the entire ferry service to have a risk assessment based upon potential sea level rise and basically the infrastructure on all the islands. It makes sense for that. But to my way of thinking, I'm not sure it's something the islands should do. I think it's something probably the ferry service should do and spearhead. And maybe that's an avenue that we take in asking them what their plan is as far as a risk assessment for infrastructure.
With starting point.
As a starting point.
That was also I had that same sort of reaction that says, yeah, the DOT should be looking at this, but I think Gabe is right.
Oh, it's a great point, but
But I think unfortunately, from what we're seeing, that unless the islands collectively take it up, it probably won't happen. But also, I think in the bigger conversation, one of the other things that I felt for a while, you know, is that all of the islands served by the ferry service would be served by working together, and if this project is the first one, you know, effectively, collectively, it would help, because part of my experience has been that the DOT manages to keep the communities, at least every now and then, arguing with each other, so they don't all turn around and argue with the DOT together. You know, whatever it is, there's always some hint that somebody else is getting, that somehow the conversation goes that way. And if there was some mechanism where all of the islands could, and the waterfront infrastructure might be a place to start and say, okay, we need to get together amongst ourselves, have a united front to have a conversation. And the advisory board doesn't really work very well at that.
Well, do you think that, the town managers of each island, given Marjorie a little bit more to do, would be a way to start? I mean, who would initiate the conversation between the islands?
You let Gabe do it.
Nope, she doesn't want to. Yes,
she's volunteering, she's put her hand up, see?
No, I'm just noting that the brick grant that Vinalhaven just applied for, this would be a great project for that, because it's already facilitating bringing all the islands together, and infrastructure is one of the focus areas. So working with MDOT to do that vulnerability assessment with the islands, you know, being the ones that are on the end of, you know, talking through, you know, the challenges that the communities are facing. But that could be a great way, assuming we get funded, but that could be a great way to forward this type of project and to work with MDOT, because it's all about, you know, facilitating that collective action and learning among the islands and coming away with some concrete project information. So, you know, an assessment would be a great outcome and some next steps for that. But if we,
Now-
if we pull in MDOT from the get-go, as part of that, that could be a great mechanism to get this done.
That was a planning grant, right, Gabe?
Yep, yep.
Okay,
I
well,
wanna-
that's something to think about. Vlad?
Jump in and, I mean, the sea level talk is it's a good conversation to have here later on, but I just want to stress this crewing issue. I'm of the understanding it's only going to get worse. I think this needs to be an issue. We need, like, when we talk to Holly or whatever we're going to do, this is, I mean, there's a strong possibility that we're down to one boat through the summer. That's when everyone takes their time off and goes on vacation and this, that, and the other. And the crewing is just so disorganized at the moment. It's going to be a very big issue. I think that's the pressing issue at hand.
I agree, Vlad.
To be addressed. These other things are all, they're great things to address also, but we need to start rattling some cages on this. Or it's just going to become a larger problem. I mean, it's already on that Sunday trip that disrupted the Dead River fuel delivery to the island. The issue that we had with the Libby, whatever, a couple weeks ago, possibly being our boat. I mean, once again, that's just oversight on planning on their part. That that would have disrupted island businesses. I think we really need to take this quite serious.
And I agree that we should put our energies into this current issue first. And the other thing will kind of play out as we find out if we get the grant or whatever, but I think we definitely need to address this issue first and get our ferry running the way it's supposed to run. It's just ridiculous. Imagine I had a conversation today that was a little testy about everything, so, I think that we need to address this first. Lad, you're right, absolutely right, and let's get in touch with Holly and see what happens.
I think it's a good idea.
Me too.
Is the consensus of the board?
Yeah.
Do so? Okay.
Something else in my view.
Is that an action item for me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
If you don't mind.
well, I guess, what is it that we want from our legislator? What do you want?
We would like to have the ferry service be a service. We would like to have it run the way it's supposed to be run. We don't need canceled trips.
Need to ask her to ask the ferry service administration about crewing the boats?
What their plan is.
I think we ought to at least try to get Holly here, just have a roundtable discussion.
We'll see if she would like to meet with us.
Yeah.
And I know she might not want to come out to the island because she'd have to spend the night, but
Imagine,
maybe
I
she
know
would.
her, if you want me, I can call her if you want,
I don't mind calling her, but I just want to be clear about what my message is. So, I mean, I don't disagree with Peter that there are broader issues than crewing the boats, and that's our big issue right now. That's a problem right now, but there are much broader issues. So, I just want to formulate my message, to Holly and say, this is something that needs to be addressed.
Well, Philly and Ladd seem to have a pretty good handle on things, so maybe get together with
Mhm.
Ladd, maybe Peter, and just kind of lay something out.
Ladd,
What would
Peter,
we
and
want to
Ladd.
know?
Well, I think it's
That's a pretty-
twofold. I mean, honestly, we have the hot button issue, we get the fire that we need to put out with the crewing issues. I mean, that's what's on fire right now. They don't have the staffing they need, and it's obviously an issue and gonna continue to be an issue. And then the other thing that's.
So for
kinda-
instance, what is it? Is it a hiring issue? Do you need to hire more people? Do you need to hire more part-time
We
people?
don't know.
Probably pay.
Right.
So those are the
You need to think
questions.
about hiring a per diem staff that's on the islands, people who are qualified, who can go when crew isn't available, regular crew isn't available. And that would be them creating a different position and thinking a little bit differently.
Well, I used to remember the days that a crew member wasn't supposed to even leave the boat until his replacement showed up. But obviously that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
You know, and the other part of it is they're not really being proactive in the way that they're managing the ferry service. They're being very reactive to what's going on immediately in front of them, and they're not thinking down the road. The Libby is a perfect example. A proactive approach to that would be, what isn't the normal traffic on the first boat off the island? And is the Libby gonna be able to handle that? And if it can't, then what do we do to kind of, you know, that's a different way of thinking, a different way of managing.
You know, Pam, one of the things that, I just remembered, we had that presentation not too long ago, both with the guy from,
Maine Maritime.
Maine Maritime. I mean, that would be another program to try to push out here so we get more people qualified.
Well, I think some people have taken advantage of that. I know we have a new crew, I don't know if they call them, they used to be
Able-bodied.
spare
Yeah.
crew. I don't know if that's still what it's called, but you know, if they're not calling the people that are available on the island to fill in, then what can you do?
Well, we can, I think the sort of question is to figure out how to, you know, make it very clear that it's unacceptable that there appears to be people available and the DOT is failing to use them or failing to have any. I mean, the intermittents, what we, you know, people that do fill in, they're not full-time employees, and in the last 2 years, they reduced the number of people. There may not be that many people available anyway, but there are some. And, you know, particularly here, there are some people who would fill those, you know, put their name in to do occasional work, and the DOT refuses to have that as a possibility.
Right, and that was what the man from Maine Maritime said. He said, if you take this course, the state won't let you fill in on the ferry.
You have to be an
You have to be an
employee.
employee.
Right, so the state has the category of employees, which is intermittent, which is the type of thing where they pay you when they use you and that's it.
Right.
And they reduced, and in some cases eliminated intermittent captains when I retired. The impression I have is so that they wouldn't have to hire me, but that's kind of, you know, self-evident. But
Probably true.
if I live here and could do that work and they won't have me on their list.
Mhm.
I mean, and there are other people here also. So that's somehow a question that, I mean, it doesn't help Marjorie with her simple question of how do you, what are we asking Holly Eaton to do for us? But I think the sense that the crewing issue is a fire that needs to be put out and addressed to Bill Gary, saying, okay, what are you going to do? And yes, it's unfortunate you had 2 people that had COVID at the same time, but we need to have the ferries run.
Right.
What are you gonna do to address the fact that you're shorthanded? You know, and is the department actively pushing for even more compensation? Why are you reaching out? Because right now, there are no positions. DOT job list. I checked, it was either this morning or yesterday, there was 2 ferry service positions, one human resources specialist and the other is assistant port engineer. There are nothing in the DOT's posting for any vessel operating position. So if they're shorthanded, one would think that they might post it.
Be advertising.
Yeah,
And if they're not shorthanded, why is the boat not running?
Mhm. I think Lad had a good point when I was talking with him earlier today, that we should have a couple of these folks come out here and live for a while and see how they feel when the ferry doesn't run.
Arbitrarily said,
You
we're
know,
not going.
Come on out and spend a night and see how you feel when you get up in the morning to go to the ferry and it's, oh, sorry, not running.
I mean,
But-
sorry, Pam.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
And I say another issue with all this to be addressed is, I mean, they don't, it's very rare they even listen to any of the crews. Like I know, they haven't taken any of their input. And for example, like as a management thing, you could bring the spear back here and run it fine as kind and put the Thompson up to Islesboro, you could run, passengerless trips, put the cars on just like they did tonight back to the island. They took the ferry over with the cars on it, no passengers. And if you did that on Islesboro, you could have the Quicksilver run the passengers over and at least keep all the ferries running. I mean, there's always other options. Like I said, the Libby was never even mentioned, for the idea to bring that over. And there's just a huge lack in the office to really even put any effort to try to make anything work.
Mhm.
Well, they don't understand the islands. They've
No.
never been here.
Yeah, they don't care. So I don't.
Well, anyway, I think we should
have-
move on, but I'm sorry?
I said, I really think the only way anything is going to happen is we really have to get a fire going on this.
Right. So Marjorie, do you have some idea
Yeah,
on what you
Yeah,
might want to
sure.
say?
The other thing that Bill Gary said is that he did ask the Coast Guard for a waiver. What I'm not clear on, because I just talked to him quickly tonight, was that if it, would that just be for this one trip, or would that be,
I have no idea.
okay, it could be anything.
Who knows what they're
Okay.
asking for? It's a
Okay.
manning issue and
Yeah, okay,
then becomes a safety issue.
Okay.
So, but they're trying to cut corners, which then is a safety issue,
Right.
which makes them look like
okay.
even worse than they are.
Peter? It's okay. You can breathe.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your email and thank you for coming and chatting about all this. And hopefully we'll make some inroads at some point. This has gone on long enough.
Turns out that Margaret cares way too much about this.
That's why she had earplugs. Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to move on to 7 committee and departmental reports and appointments. Woodard and Kern status report, and I'm gonna include the downtown project, Gabe, along with those 2.
We didn't actually get the Woodard and Curran, so.
No, we didn't look. So I guess it's you, Gabe.
Okay, yeah, unless there's other updates that Marjorie knows about the other Woodard and Kern projects, I'm not in tune to those, but so downtown project updates. Good news, I'm glad to say. We got our letter from EDA, Economic Development Administration, today saying we're good to go out to bid, which is very, yeah. Finally, after such a lot of work we've gotten here. So I messaged with Marjorie and Woodard and Kern today. They are pretty much, I think they're all set with the bid documents because they're ready to go. So I think it's just a question of, is it going to go out to bid tomorrow or the next day? And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't move as quickly as possible and just get it out to bid. One thing that we will be discussing, Brent and Marjorie and I, at our meeting, our standing meeting on Monday, will just be, and this is something for you all to be thinking about too. It seems like where we were originally hoping to go out to bid sooner and like have a contractor by now, that it might not be feasible to start this spring, but there's a lot of conversations I think we need to have, like with the water district. We talked a little bit about it, Pam, in our meeting this week, about maybe needing to start after Labor Day instead of trying to start this spring, just because we can't be working in the summer. So to have, if we start something and it's not looking like it's gonna be able to get wrapped up, there's no reason to start it. It's better to just wait till the fall, mobilize, and then it's sad to think about another delay. And I think as long as like it's in progress and things are being mobilized and there's a contractor, just basically, waiting to go, I think that's better than a delay that's like the unknown delays, which is what we've had so far. So
Well, certainly far be it from me, excuse me, to speak for Maine Water, but I can't imagine that we would be comfortable with, a temp service through the summer months, so that would be totally irresponsible.
That
So
makes more sense.
probably they would agree to
Yeah,
start in the
seems like
late summer, early fall.
the way, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to try to predict the weather, God forbid, but just the way
Fairy beans.
have been going, I think, it's like starting a project in September and being, getting it done before the ground freezes seems very reasonable. And I think, that the engineers agree with that as well. So, yeah, so anyway, that's the update on that. And then with the MBRC, I don't think I have anything new to report other than we're just waiting on NOAA. Everything is done on our end. Just NOAA has to give us approval for the portions of our environmental assessment that they had to review, which is basically related to anything that's happening in the water. So that's like the boat launches and the pilings and everything. So those are the updates I have on that. I will say we did submit that main infrastructure adaptation fund grant on Friday. I don't know how successful we'll be. I think it's probably going to be really competitive. But we submitted for I think we discussed this at the last meeting, a retaining wall to go between the end of the parking lot behind the engine house and where Dot and Millie's is, just to mitigate that flooding into that area. There's, a lot of different questions around the design of that, but I think those would get resolved with the parking lot. So we should hear about that, I think by early March. So at least we'll know, if we need to try to fund it, in another way, or is there a different thing we're going to add. But anyway, that's in there and we'll see. It's always you never know, right? You never know with these funding things. And so I think that's all I have. The only other thing that's not really related to the project, but since I'm here, I'll say, is the LED streetlight project. The last update we got was that Affinities, who's the contractor North Haven is working with to do this project. They will be sending folks out to do just the streetlight audit, which is basically GIS mapping of or getting GIS coordinates of all of the streetlights, and they do like a condition audit of those. And I think that's supposed to be happening sometime this month. So I don't know how much we'll know about that, but it's really just, collecting data so they can then GIS map these streetlights. So I don't know if there's any downtown project questions or anything else.
Yes.
Hi. So I was involved with the downtown project originally, and then the last year and a half, I haven't been involved for personal reasons. So I preface that because I have a question about the design, and I've spoken to Gabe a little bit about it too, and I don't want to hold up anything as we move forward because everyone has worked for so long and so hard. But my question is this: it looks like the crosswalk that's in front of the grocery store is now 37 feet wide, which seems crazy big for our little town. And I know that it's, I've been told that it's that wide because there's some traffic calming that's needed, and then to get the right angle for it to come up and down, it needs to be that width. But I don't know if other people have asked you about it, but I would be curious what the board's opinion is on having like a major city size crosswalk on Vinalhaven instead of maybe, obviously I'm not an engineer. I don't know the safest place to put side of crosswalks, but that just seems excessively large for our. And is there a better solution?
Gabe, can you address that?
I think Chris knows what I'm going to say because she and I have spoken about this. I don't have anything to add other than what Chris shared, and I, I think the original thought behind it was, trying to figure out where crosswalks would go that could also be speed tables. So, you know, there's that crosswalk that has a slight elevation as a speed table. And then there's one, I think down closer to High Street, that's a speed, like it's sort of a regular, I say regular width. I think it's like an 8 foot wide crosswalk that has that's a speed table.
Right.
I think the original conversations with stakeholders and the select board was like, rather than having multiple crosswalks to address the fact that people tend to cross anywhere in that area that's adjacent to the parking lot along Main Street. So would it be safer to have a single larger crosswalk that could act as a speed table, you know, sort of centered in the parking lot, in a way, I mean, more centered in the parking lot in a way that would encourage the flow of traffic over that crosswalk. So that was the original thinking behind that design. I think that's all I can say about the why behind that design.
That should be a simple question to the engineer. What are the options? That shouldn't be a major change.
Well, I think the question becomes if a change order is going to be put in to alter that design once the project gets started. You know, I think the select board would need to make a decision about that. It would need to take into consideration what's the parking lot design going to be. Are you going to have multiple crosswalks or just that, you know, a one smaller crosswalk? So I guess I'm thinking like the way that the reasoning behind the large crosswalk, how else would we be addressing, you know, what other solutions would we use to address those same goals? Assuming those are still goals. So, you know, yes, a change order could be made. You know, it's not out of the question, but I think it's the design was decided on by the select board, so it would be the select board probably deciding, you know.
Because obviously, people are gonna cross that road, whether that crosswalk is 8 feet or 40 feet. You aren't gonna stop people from going across. So I'm with Chris on this one. It seems to be excessive.
Well, I just have a question on, which it really doesn't, at this point right now, it doesn't really, I don't have any opinion about it, but I'm just curious what the problem is to have it that wide. I mean, is there some reason that people don't like it or don't want it, or?
Well, for me, it's sort of hard for me to imagine having such a wide sidewalk and how that looks in our town, but it also, it doesn't show here, I just printed this off today, but I think it's gonna cause, if we have to move the Eagle, and I know we have to do that for construction.
Right.
And we've had some conversations about where's the Eagle gonna go, and nobody, you know, maybe it will go back here, maybe it won't go back here. So, that was part of why I was concerned in the beginning, because it seemed like it was bumping out the Eagle and there was no new home for the Eagle. So, and I also just wonder, because of the way people cross, and it's, you know, would it make more sense to have two crosswalks? One at either end, you know, sort of where you come in and where you come out of the parking lot? Because people are gonna cross wherever they're gonna cross, and wouldn't it be the same effect with controlling traffic if you had two crosswalks right there in the dead center of Main Street instead of one big one?
And Chris, has one other point. Gabe knows this. When you have that crosswalk, you have to change the contour of the actual sidewalk coming into it. So you're gonna disrupt a lot of that sidewalk by going to 30-odd feet.
I think it's something we're gonna have to discuss at another meeting, because we're gonna have to do some thinking about it and looking at the plan and discussing like, how will it affect the sidewalk? And, you know, can we have a a crosswalk on either end, the entrance and the exit to the parking lot? I don't know how that all works for safety reasons, Gabe. I know there's specific things that you can do with crosswalks, and a lot of it has to do where sidewalks end and that kind of thing, but right now, I think it's something we'll just have to look at in maybe the next meeting, or. Yeah,
I'll talk to the engineers too.
what's that, Marjorie? Are you gonna say something?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate that we're going out to bid with this design, and if there's a change, it would be a change order that would happen down the road.
Right.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I will say too, it wouldn't be an insignificant, I mean, if the board said, we don't want as large a crosswalk after all, we want it like an 8-foot or 12-foot crosswalk, that's fine. I would say thinking about adding another crosswalk would be too much because that would have to redesign the parking, because you have to have tip downs. And not that it would be like out of the question, but you're talking a much more significant redesign and like where, based on like the parking lot, exit, how is that impacted? So, I think if anything happened, to think about, you could pull in those areas. And I'm not an engineer, so I might be saying things that Brent would be kicking me for, but, just like, yeah, I think the adding something is not
Okay,
because we would have, and keep in mind, like, there's no grant money that's paying for engineering this portion of the project. It's Vinalhaven's money that's paying for this engineering. It's our match to the EDA grant. EDA doesn't pay for the engineering for us. So any money that we've been putting into this is like our match money. And if we make, significant design changes, then that's just going to cost us money. I think minor design changes, the board could consider those if that seems like it's in the best interest of the community and the project. So I think it's, if the board wants to consider those a change order, especially maybe as you move toward the parking lot design and seeing how the crosswalk integrates into what kind of design that you want, that could be a good time to look at it. I don't know how it would work in relation to a change order for the bid documents, but since that portion of the project probably isn't going to start until next year, it's probably not out of the question.
so that's not gonna take place until the NBRC grant comes in, right, for the parking lot? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, the only thing holding that up is Noah's approval. And they had, I think they had, I want to say they had like 60 days to review something. So their deadline is coming up here very soon. So hopefully they'll have nothing else to say and then we can move forward with that parking lot design.
Okay, so my question is then, we don't have to have an answer as to what we're gonna do until this, grant, this notice to proceed. So we can discuss it, we don't have to have an answer like in 2 weeks.
No.
I mean, we can,
No,
okay,
I think the idea is the parking lot design. In the ideal world, we'd be working on the parking lot design like this spring and having a final design done, like, I think we were thinking by May. So, over the next, hopefully, 3 months or so, working on that design. So I don't think there's no rush to answer it.
so it makes sense for us, I would think, to, wait and kind of see what kind of a design is gonna be they're gonna come up with, or we're gonna come up with for the parking lot before we make a decision on the width of a crosswalk.
I doubt they're related, but it's not a big deal.
Well, I think they are related, only because the parking lot is gonna be where the crosswalk is gonna lead you to. So
Well,
I
I mean,
think,
the width is not a,
well, maybe not, I don't know, I have no idea. But at least we can have time to discuss it as a,
well, I think we ought to talk to
and look at the, design and,
Brent anyway, just to see what would be involved.
okay.
Last question.
Yep.
Crosswalks. Gabe, are all the crosswalks on Main Street, are they all traffic calming or some are actually just painted on the asphalt? Is this the only?
No, the only other traffic calming crosswalk that they could put in was the one that's like down by the bank.
Mhm.
Okay,
So it'll be not quite in the same location, but very similar location. And that's a raised crosswalk. And then the one by the grocery store is the raised crosswalk.
okay.
I want one in front of my house,
Yeah,
the big one.
I don't blame you. We could have them all over town, right, Al? All right, great. Okay, you all set, Chris?
Thank you, yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, we'll put this on the back burner for a few minutes and see what we do going down the road. And if we need a reminder, Gabe, on that it's when we should discuss or,
Yeah, I will bring it to our meeting with Brent on Monday, just so it's out there and talk
Okay.
about, if the board decided to change that, what that would look like, from a design perspective. But I think we're on the right track and it's out there and I'll just put it on my list. So
okay,
it's,
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just one point though. Gabe, how high is that crosswalk gonna be, you know?
oh gosh, I don't remember. It
That may
says,
be- That may be the determinant of the width, but you don't want people walking on the edge and falling off. So
Especially with the grocery
there's
cart.
another,
and
there's
it's
another
not,
factor there.
it's very gradual too. It's not very high at all. It's just like, I'm gonna sound like I don't know what I'm
3 inches,
talking
4
about, 'cause
inches,
I
5
don't
inches.
remember. It's in the plan, which is there at the
Okay.
office. It'll show you.
Okay. thanks.
Okay,
Sorry,
right,
that's the
thanks,
best I got.
no, that's okay. You're good. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Do you wanna go to Rampage while they?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt.
I thought they were enjoying the meeting. All right, so we'll move 9A up to right now.
So the Jeff Tolman Music Award had submitted a proposal for 2024 musical rampage to be held in the Main Street parking lot again. We feel it was a success last year. We got positive feedback overall from the event. You will notice that our letter is requesting an hour extension onto last year just because we went over anyway. And I think, that's kind of to be expected with the first year of scheduling bands and the transition periods in between getting people on and off stage. So, I don't know what time noise ordinance goes into effect.
10 o'clock
Is it
Yeah.
10 o'clock? We,
or 11?
I was thinking it was 11.
It's 10.
Like fireworks, where
We have a noise on
so we requested 10 o'clock to be safe, but
Yeah, I think it's either 10 or 11 o'clock. I'm not
That was 10.
sure, but
we can find out.
doesn't, I mean, that's fine with me. I don't really.
I'm in bed at 8:30.
Certainly doesn't matter to me, whatever.
Yeah, either way.
I don't think there were too many, maybe 1 or 2 complaints about the whole thing from other people and, businesses perhaps, but I didn't hear any complaints from any towns. People, any
The only
citizens.
complaint we heard of probably the lack of parking in the afternoon there. The question I would have on that parking, do you need the whole parking lot shut down or can we still have part of it for parking during that time you're setting up?
I mean, I would say for safety, it probably wouldn't be a great idea to have people trying to get in and out of the parking lot because we are using the majority of it for like, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with how it was set up last
No, I
summer, but the
wasn't.
stage was right in front of the old fire hall, like where the concessions are during the 4th of July.
Mm,
And then the stage was there. The concessions were adjacent to the Tidewater. And then we had some tents along like where the Eagle is and those parking spaces there. So, and then we had a big tent in the middle. I mean, we took up the entire parking lot. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we did discuss, I remember last year, you know,
Right.
saying like, if we had somebody that was directing traffic in and out, we could probably maybe safely do
I-
that, but
I think you're fine. To me, as long as it's advertised in advance, I mean, last year it kind of came quickly.
yes, it did.
So this year, you know what, we know what's going on and just have it in the wind. Just a reminder, the parking lot will be closed from whatever time. That's what I would recommend, and certainly if there are any issues, then
What time do you shut the parking lot down last year?
I think last year it was like noon,
11.
11 or noon. And we put some signage up the evening before saying
Yeah.
for people, we put some cones up with signs that just said when the parking lot would be shut off.
so there were a lot of complaints about that.
There were a few, not a whole lot, but there were some.
I don't know.
I didn't get any.
I didn't. Did you, Ally?
No, I haven't heard, I didn't hear any of those.
Okay.
I heard nothing but positive.
I heard
Well,
nothing
everyone,
but
very
positive.
positive, don't get me wrong.
It was a really, really nice time.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, that's, your request is okay with me. I don't know.
I moved to.
Do we make a motion?
I should.
Or
I think
just
we
a-
made a motion last year.
We did, okay. So the motion would be that we accept the request for the use of the Main Street parking lot this summer to host the fundraiser musical rampage on Saturday, August 17th, 2024, from 5 to 10 p.m. Should I have to put in there about the parking lot closure, Marjorie, or just that? Is that okay? Did that sound professional?
Yeah. so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Considering, appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, we'll go back to 7C ambulance memorandum of understanding MOU between Maine EMS and VHEMS.
I'm just asking for an approval from the board to sign this memorandum of understanding. The Maine EMS had received grant funding from the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety through the National Highway Safety Grant Program. It's for, if I get this wording correct. Procurement of Cradle Point ruggedized router. Oh, is that what I wrote up? Oh,
I saved it.
I wrote up the sample motion.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have to struggle. with
Thank
it.
you.
So you should also be aware that, this grant will fund it for a couple of years, but then after that, if we keep them, there will be a cost related. And I know I'm kind of going fast. Ryan sent an email. He was hoping to be here, but he's at some, fire training this evening in St. George. Did you have a chance to read what he wrote about it? His email?
Oh,
The
no,
system will allow us access
no, I
to a
just,
dedicated high-speed Wi-Fi connection aboard each ambulance, enabling us better access to online medical control, as well as the ability to easily integrate telehealth technology. Specific to our service, my intent is to invest in the next generation of cardiac monitored defibrillators, which comes standard with cloud-based technology. In short, the combination of these new monitors already budgeted for and the connectivity program offered by Maine EMS could enable us to broadcast in real time vital signs, cardiac monitoring, and potentially other patient data securely to providers at PBMC and ICMS. I can go on if you want to read it
no,
for yourselves.
this sounds like a really nice thing.
So do we know what the cost is after the
Well,
Yeah.
$3,000 a year for the.
3
two
grand?
ambulances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It- it-
paragraph.
it is-
Yeah,
in
it's
his
the last,
email.
it's the next to the last paragraph.
Brian's email.
No, I think this was included after.
It should have been somewhere.
I don't have it.
Roughly 3,000.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
$127 a month for each ambulance.
Yeah, okay. That's not drastic.
Well, it sounds like
Saves one life.
it
before-
sounds like
Yeah.
it's something that would really be a great thing for the ambulance service to have.
I agree.
Does anybody have any questions?
You got the motion in front of you?
Yeah, I know. I'm just asking
Oh, I got you.
before I keep going.
Sounds good to me.
Lad, are you still there?
Yep, I don't have any questions.
Okay,
My phone's,
All right.
my phone might die and I don't have a charger handy where I got stuck over. I didn't grab one before the meeting started, so
okay.
if I disappear, that's what's happened.
Okay, so I'll quickly read this motion. Move to support the memorandum of understanding between Maine EMS and Vinalhaven EMS for procurement of Cradle Point ruggedized, I could not, I didn't really understand what that word is. Router and multifunction high gain dome antenna with related installation and maintenance costs for 2 years, paid for with a grant from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Great. Moving on.
If you wanna back up for just a second,
Oh,
the crosswalks are 3.5 inches high.
3.5 inches high. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
That was, I saw him grab the map of the plans. Thank you. 3 inches, Dawn. 3.5,
3.5.
3.5 inches.
So really then the 35 feet would be a lot more than we probably need, probably 12 feet.
Well, we're not gonna discuss it right now, thanks, but
Yeah.
I
You
know
got the
where you're
point.
coming from. We're gonna move on to Knox County Sheriff's Report, December and January.
Peter's been busy.
Yeah, yes. So I've read through that. If everybody's good with that, I'm gonna move along to the next one.
Yep.
Where did E, appointment. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Thank you.
7E, appointment to the Ferry Terre Advisory Committee, Roxanne Tolman. I would make a motion that we appoint Roxanne to the Ferry Tariff Advisory Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd say Lad has.
Lad,
Yeah.
Lad's vanished.
oh, yeah. Opposed?
I think we all voted.
Okay. I didn't know if everybody voted. Just checking. 8, old business, seeing none, new business. Vinalhaven wastewater sewer user issues.
So the sewer use ordinance requires that we look at the billings each year and look closely at those properties that are using more than the average of the 110 gallons per day. And these are accounts that I did look at and analyze and should be increased. Unfortunately, Stephanie and Tom.
I just have a question.
Yes,
Is it based on 1 quarter billing? Or,
based on the ordinance requires that I look at the highest used quarter, which is the July, August, and September.
okay, so 1 quarter will impact each
Correct.
user. Not the average usage for the year per day
It's the
But
use
1
per
quarter.
day,
for the highest quarter.
yes.
I'm just
That's
trying to understand
correct.
the ordinance. Because
Um,
you see where I'm going. July, August, September, I was doing some pressure washing around the house, and that's why my water usage was high.
Well, in that case, you can apply for, what are they, it's not a
An
leak.
abatement?
yeah, it's not a leak abatement, but it's,
If it comes through the meter, if his,
Mhm.
if he's using the water and it's coming through his
Yeah,
meter,
so
which
this
it
is
is,
meter.
It is, yes.
then there would be, that's what he's used.
Mhm.
Right.
So the only other alternative, or not an alternative, the next step for him would be to wait. He'd have to go through another
Another cycle.
cycle, right?
Well,
To
that's how
see
I interpret the ordinance.
if it comes down, like your next bill would be, give you the other half user,
Right.
but then this, when the next bill comes out in
Next,
Met,
next
April.
year.
or is it a year?
No. Well, you're welcome to read the ordinance and
Can't
make your
remember
own
how it goes.
interpretation. So we are required, the Board of Selectmen required to look at each account, and if the account is, if the water usage as calculated, you know, it's a complex calculation. You're using more than the 110 average gallons per day, then we're supposed to increase by 0.5 increments the number of users.
On the sewer side of the,
Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, I get it, I
Yes.
understand that. I'm just trying, making sure that I understand the ordinance. I haven't read it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who haven't either.
It's
correct.
very
Um,
confusing.
so in order to make this drop and go down, then a half increment of users, so obviously it's gonna make my bill go up,
Yes.
and it'll make somebody else's bill go up if they're in the same position. How long,
Well, that's what I just asked Margaret. Is it the next
So this
billing
will begin-
cycle?
So it will begin with the next cycle, which is January, February, and March.
Right.
Mhm. And those bills will come out in April,
April.
right? So then he can bring those bills back, he can bring that bill to you and ask for it to drop back down again?
No, that's not how I interpret the
Okay.
ordinance. But
Yeah, I don't,
it's an annual review.
oh, annual,
well, that's my concern, is it's an annual review.
so you'd have to come back
It's
next,
an annual review, but it's only basing its assessment on 1/4 of usage.
The
The
highest
highest
use,
quarter, not the aggregate average for the year.
correct.
Right.
I would think average for the year be a better number.
That's where I'm going.
Well, I'm using the ordinance.
I'm not disputing that, I'm questioning the ordinance. And it's on its own.
I know,
Yeah,
yes.
review it.
but,
I can get you a copy.
anyway. So he would, or not just he, but anybody,
Anyway.
he would have to come back in a year with the,
Well, I'll read the ordinance.
Well,
yeah,
with the assistance of the ladies in the office, we look at the billing every quarter
mm-hmm,
to see if there are any anomalies, so anyway.
I'm sure a lot of people who have gardens and water their gardens are gonna run into the same issue.
well, you know, that's one of the prices you pay when you have to water your garden. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that,
No.
we've been through this with other customers in the past.
I'm not doing this with customers. A customer, I understand
Right,
what's happening, I get it. But as a selectman, as a representative of the town, if we're looking at 1/4 of somebody's water usage and basing their entire year's usage average on that highest quarter,
mm-hmm,
I'm not sure that's an accurate representation of the average usage of that household. It is for that 1/4, but not for the year.
That would require an audit change.
I understand that, so I'll look at the ordinance and read it and
okay.
think it through.
Just remember, any water that runs through your
I
meter
understand that,
will be,
I understand that.
that you have to pay
That's where
for,
I did
whether you
more.
water a garden or not.
I understand.
So I do know that. But anyway, are there any more questions about this before I make the motion? If not, move to increase the number of users for the following accounts, beginning with the April billing, which covers January, February, and March 2024. And do I have to read off the each account, Marjorie, or just that motion there?
The three named
You-
accounts.
Yeah,
You just put it in.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Okay. All right, Marjorie. Report of town
Did you
manager.
guys stay for this discussion?
No, I was here.
It's so interesting.
It is.
No, I don't have to watch it on Facebook.
There you go.
Well, we did have a budget meeting, just before this meeting. Banner was there, Margaret, Eric Davis, and, Bill Alcorn. And most of our discussion was around the, capital project and the reserves and what we're looking at for big projects and how much we're gonna need. Didn't actually take any votes on whether or not they're gonna approve or not approve particular lines, but we had a lot of conversation around what we're gonna need in the next couple of years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. I'm also wondering how you all want to address the budget, and how you want to work on, do you want to have separate workshops? Okay.
I would prefer separate workshops.
Okay, and do you want to start scheduling those or?
Probably.
I mean, you'll be back, what, the 28th, 27th?
I'm back on the 20,
That Friday, so the 27th would be our Tuesday meeting. She's back the Friday before.
Okay. I think that to try to fit them in with regular meetings makes them too long.
I
Does.
agree.
Wait,
Have a
I haven't
budget.
been through a cycle yet, so I'm gonna take your.
Yeah,
guidance.
Yeah, I
it,
think
it
we-
makes for a long
Pam, can I
night.
make a suggestion?
Yes,
The budget committee is gonna put a lot of work into this thing, developing their version. What I would suggest, rather than us going through all the numbers separately, basically take their numbers, review them, and where we have questions, it might take us a couple of meetings to do that. But rather than starting from scratch on everything, we basically
Right.
start with their numbers and then refine them to where we feel they should be.
I thought we had the budget committee recommendations on when we have our budget workshop.
We haven't had a budget committee, at least when I was on that one committee.
Don't we have?
yeah, what I will give you.
Have their
is-
recommendations?
What I will give you that's in the summary will have my recommendation, if there's a different departmental recommendation and the budget committee recommendation.
Right. So we'll have that already.
Yeah, and that would, we can work from there and say, okay, does that meet our goal? Rather than us spending all the time and they're doing the work, why be redundant?
Well, I
And
think
there's a
that's
few
the
things
idea.
that we wanted to bring up as discussions about, capital funding. One being the Trotting Park or Meadow, depending on what you talk, who you talk to.
Right.
Funding that, because that's not in anything we're talking about right now. Or the ferry pen, the old ferry pen.
Right.
That's not anywhere. So adding a few of those, and then we talked about the ferry, flooding, as also being something to think about.
What is that, the ferry flooding?
Well, we talked about having a capital fund for flooding, the meadow, that's the first one that we need to deal with, but it won't be the last one, where we have roads that are flooding during the events. So having some long-term plan for that, so we're not caught off, guard all the time, because we have to do these major road repairs, and they're not cheap.
Right.
Right.
So that's very true.
And then a few of the capital funds that, do we need to keep? Do they need to keep running if we haven't touched them, or can they be moved or put into another capital fund?
Yeah.
That was basically all we covered tonight was, looking at that big picture.
Okay, good.
So
So you made progress at your meeting.
I thought it was productive.
It's a start.
So what days would you want to, how many meetings, workshops do you think we'll need? And when do you, what
We
days?
didn't set a date for the budget committee, did we?
Well, we did afterwards,
Oh, we
said
did?
the next
Oh.
select board, but we thought it was 2 weeks away, so now we have to change it because you're not here that.
I'll include it when I send out the minutes.
Okay,
To be, we've been doing it just before your meeting and it seems to work for, people.
Yeah.
So.
good. Okay. Did you want to set any
Well, we-
separate meetings?
I think we should, don't you, to get started? I don't know what days work for you folks. Doesn't really matter to me.
Evening meetings. So.
Yeah, it'd be like a 5 o'clock meeting. Any particular day work for you guys?
Sunday.
I'm sorry, Sunday, yeah, I'm sure.
There's one every crowd, right?
Yeah, they usually. Don't.
Wednesday's about the only day that'd be a problem for me.
Wednesday, okay, so you want to do, a Thursday?
Yeah, I guess. How many meetings do you think we'll need? Because the budget committee is meeting.
Well, are you gonna meet on the 27th? Is that when you're meeting? Okay.
So then we'll have our BOS meeting that, do you want to? If we didn't have a large agenda on the 27th, we could start our budget meeting, budget workshop that night, the 27th, but then you're gonna be,
Well, if they're meeting at 3:30.
then when they get done, we could start our first one at that meeting and then decide when we want to meet after that.
Let's keep it separate.
No, I know that, I want to, but should we do our first? Like, just take the simple ones and get them out of the way, like insurance
There's
and,
no simple ones.
well, the insurance, you know, things that
Things
aren't,
that don't change all that much.
yeah, take the ones
We
that,
don't have any control over.
right, take the ones that we know we can work through in no time.
Yeah.
Like, take a half hour and just go through the ones that we know we
I
don't
think
really have
that's a
any
good idea.
discussion over.
Yes. I
On
think
the
that's a good idea.
27th?
On the 27th.
Do you want to do that for that, have a board meeting?
I'm asking you.
Yeah, no. You have a budget meeting at 3:30, correct, on the 27th?
Uh-huh.
Would that be inconvenient to you? Not inconvenient, but is it too much budget all at once for you on the same day? To add that to our regular meeting on the
I'm not really
27th?
understanding what your goal is for that. So on the 27th, you want to talk about the budget, but you want to talk about specific budgets?
We'll just do the ones that we work through that, like insurances and things that we know only take us a short
Mhm.
time, that don't really change. We don't have a lot of discussion.
Okay,
And then then we might have a better idea of when we want to meet and the times and whatnot. Is that confusing?
no, I mean, whatever, whatever you want to do.
Did that make sense?
I just be in favor of letting them do their job and then us pick it up, because they can do this just as easy as we can.
But you still both have to review the same budget.
Yeah.
So you can do them.
So we're gonna have some budget conversation on the 27th. Just put it on the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And then we can decide, we
And then
want to
you're
do
gonna have a-
Thursdays or whatever. We can decide that night
Okay,
what we want to do.
Future
And-
workshops.
Yeah,
okay.
thank you. Future workshops, yes.
Got it. I did also give you a picture of all of our different accounts, our cash accounts. I don't know if you're interested in that, but,
I was looking at it.
Stuff.
we have increased the interest rate on all of the accounts to 4% or above. Some of them, most of them are at 4.28. But I did, call Camden National and I said, hey,
I see that.
we got all our money. You know, you're our only brick and mortar bank. how about giving us better interest? And they gave me 5.15, so I left 2 million in that account.
I'm surprised. That's the first time
That is the first time.
they.
I don't have it.
Positive response.
You definitely should have had that, cause that was,
Nope.
That was in the board packet on our phone,
yeah.
that was emailed to us.
It's not here.
We just leave things out of your packet.
And I didn't have the other thing either.
Yeah, you can have mine if you wanna look at it.
I
looked
just
at-
want to take a look. I'll.
Yeah, no, I looked at it on the online, anyway.
So most of our money, well, it's kind of split between First National and Camden as far as our general fund checking. We've still got that TIF account. There's 200,000 in that. And that could be used for, oh no, we voted to use that for the mapping project.
Right.
Oh, no, wait a minute. The ARPA funds are the ones that we're using for that. I'm sorry, I'm
I don't-
confusing myself.
Mm.
The ARPA funds that we have, 115,000, are gonna be used for our mapping project.
Oh, yeah.
The TIF money can be used for paving on the North Haven Road if we do that. Our wastewater checking is in better shape than it has been in terms of collecting receivables. And then Machias savings those are all reserve funds. The sewer connection account is an old account that we use to collect the loans that we gave people to hook up to the sewer, and that's due to be closed out to the wastewater checking. And then we have the first, it's almost another 2 million, that's reserve funds. That one is harbor, sidewalk and road. Cemetery checking, that holds the cemetery perpetual care endowment and also some expendable funds. The Mary Talbot can be used for improvements to town structures or beautification of the community. And the ARPA funds, as I said, we appropriated that to use for the mapping project. Anyway.
So the sewer connection, did you get that straightened out with Pam Blackman?
Yeah, I talked with Pam and she said she's actually working on closing all those accounts out.
Good.
So we'll finally be done with that.
So that money will go right into the checking
Yeah.
account, okay,
Yeah.
good, all right.
I just wanted to update you, the landing up at North Haven is all done.
Looks good.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. As I've said, we had already put money in the budget to pay for the new walkway and the ramp, but of course we had to do those footings, so it was more expensive than I anticipated. So most of the money will still come out of that thoroughfare account, you know, the leased property account that we have under town property. And then, I'm gonna take some money out of the, town wharves account. Just, it was more money than I anticipated, just because of mostly because of those concrete footings that we had to do. We just didn't anticipate having
Right.
to replace those. So I just wanted to be open about that it costs a lot, not a lot, like $10,000 more than I had anticipated.
That's
And-
not bad.
Well, I know, but it's just, you know,
10,000.
I tried to plan by having that in the budget to replace that walkway, but none of us really anticipated what would happen with the storms.
That's for sure.
I know.
We're still waiting to hear about Ferry Advisory Board again. Still waiting to hear about these public hearings that are supposed to take place for the new tariff 10, the new rates. I haven't heard anything about when that will be. Apparently it is gonna be at the Hutchinson Center in Belfast. So we'll just let you know when that, we received notice. And I haven't heard anything from, Knox County Sheriff's Office. I had contacted, well, maybe I understand now why, because Andy Hart, the county commissioner, not county commissioner, county administrator has resigned. And he's the one that I deal with in terms of getting the contract, the new contract for the sheriff's office together. And I had heard from, wasn't it Kurt about trying to get a meeting together? But, and then the conversation just died, so I don't know what's happening over there. So Andy Hart, I guess, I don't know when his last day is, but that was in the newspaper last week that he had resigned.
I feel like it was the last day of January.
Is that when his last day is gonna be?
I think that's what I read. I don't remember now.
So I don't know what's happening with our, contract, because our contract expired at the end of December.
Right.
Right.
Anyway,
Certainly, I don't have any clue what's going on.
that's all I have.
With that. 11 report of members.
I'm good. It's nice to see people skating on the ball ground.
Yeah,
It was nice to see him.
okay. 12, motion to adjourn.
Move.
Yeah, second.
Second, all in favor? Thank you. No, Dawn, what I was